I could get into my good
Yeah,
now,
let's do
though.
it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Mine is the fact that the maverick of the North American space, one of the longest standing just esports founders, Jason Lake, has bought back Complexity. So I'm really happy about this. I think that the biggest issue is that with GameSquare potentially having both Complexity and FaZe flying under their banner, it obviously would have led to a conflict of interest, which I don't know if even this scene cares about conflicts of interest anymore, but it still needs to be stated that that would have been the case, and maybe would have led to some drama if they were to play in the same tournament. But it's obviously nice knowing that the brand in Complexity won't have to dissolve, and the team won't have to dissolve due to the fact that Jason Lake has acquired them, and it's for the details there, $10.36 million going to be paid over 3 years. And some people might not really care about this too much because they probably think, well, like if GameSquare got them, like I don't know. I sometimes see these like kind of like weird fringe comments on the internet, and some people are gonna like, no one ever said that, but it's like, no, like I'm bringing it up because I have seen this. Like people will say like, oh, who even cares? Like FaZe is the better team, and if Complexity's not playing for championships, who really cares? It's like, no, the growth and health of the scene is all spurred on by the fact that there are these other teams as opposed to just the championship caliber rosters. And Complexity obviously haven't done as well lately after they seemingly had a nice honeymoon at the beginning of CS2 where they did very well at the fall finals, did very well at IEM Sydney where they came in second place, almost beating FaZe out, by the way. But I'm glad to just see that this roster is not going to fall apart because by and large, they are the best North American team, and I'm including Liquid in that. So
I mean, right now, yeah.
If anybody's even rooting for an NA majority team, they are by far the best team because Liquid isn't even a majority team at that. Yeah. And so for Complexity, I'm just glad to know that they're in good hands. I'm glad to know that it's Jason Lake that's behind them because I think over the years there's been a little bit of negativity. The only negativity I ever saw with Jason Lake was kind of like early sticker money, which wasn't in contracts. And so it seemed like the org was taking a little bit more back than some of the players thought was fair. But beyond that, it's been a pretty clean slate for this roster or for this team overall, for this organization. And everybody that's played under Jason Lake lately seems to have great relationships with him. I'm talking about people like Config, people like Blame F, people that, have come and gone with Complexity. And it just seems like Jason Lake has done what it takes, and he's been in the scene long enough to we know this dude isn't just some grifter that's just coming in, trying to score a buck and just trying to leave. Like he's dedicated everything in his life towards this, and I'm glad to see that he's got his baby back.
What do you think of this move, Donna?
I think also it's a great move. I was even thinking of using this also as my good point, but I assumed that one of you would mention it. And yeah, I think it's very good. As also Maui said, Jason, like he's like not just like someone who's trying to make, I don't know, like fast money. Okay, let's buy this team and hope they make it to the next major. So I can live with the sticker money. He's been in the scene for many, many years. He has like a great name, and also his face is like very like a lot of people know his face because there's like many teams where the like owners or CEOs are more like in the background.
Yes,
but he's like one of this like people that is like really like in the front. I remember like seeing him also often at events.
Yeah.
He was always at the LAN events, at the big events, cheering for his team, appearing, networking with people. So you can see this is someone who is not just like who is just like not owning a company, but he's part of esports. And I'm also glad that he's the one who's buying Complexity back. I think he sold them 2017 or 18.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But I think also the lineup was not really doing well back then. So kind of understandable. And with him buying it back, I just like hope it brings like a bit of a new wind into the team, and also like something that Maui had a very good point that they have been kind of like really, they had a good start, like I would say in the beginning of CS2, and now like kind of like falling off. So I don't know. I just like hope that there's like also some things happening in the background, motivating the team more. And yeah, of course, resolving also the conflict of interest is like the number one thing, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I will say it. First of all, Maui, I know you have somewhat changed your position, but if you were ever going to be the person, like, what does conflict of interest and specific pedantic rules matter? You're in the wrong fucking call for that today, homie. You've got Thorin and a German. So, like, listen, rules are rules, Maui. Follow the fucking rules. You exactly, enough said. But I would just say this. I actually think normally I wouldn't give a fuck about an owner buying a team. So who cares, right? But as you say, Donna, this is a rare example of someone who's iconic. Like, Jensen Lake is Counter-Strike as far as I'm concerned, especially in North American Counter-Strike. Like, not only is he the part of the reason why like that whole region grew up and got legit, and actually he was one of the first people to properly sponsor a team. But I'll give a little bit of a history here. People won't know this. That old school team that people remember with Warden and Fraud and Storm and not Volcano, fucking Sunman and Trip, that lineup, that was the classic one that won ESWC, right? They didn't have massive sponsorship like Team 3D, who had like Torbull and they had all the business connections. At the time, Jason Lake even actually, maybe this was naivety at the time, he was actually thinking, well, I won't take the small early sponsorship deals that you do to get your org going. I'll just pay it myself. And then once we hit the top, as they did, I'll then leverage it into big sponsorships. Now, that ended up not happening because obviously CGS came along. So here's a little history lesson for people. First of all, before CGS, Jason Lake had paid, as far as I know, nearly all the costs of this team. So he paid their salary, boot camps, flights, everything. And back in the day, by the way, team orgs didn't take all the prize money even back then. They take like 1%, but you'll never make a profit. And so as far as I know, this is a detail a lot of people aren't aware of. He put so much money in that was basically his entire life savings and nest egg that he'd done working as a fucking lawyer, one of the most boring jobs in the world. Like, he basically earned like hundreds of thousands of dollars, then put it all into this team. And so then, this is what people don't know. Then when CGS came along, famously, if you ever go back, there are interviews with him where he doesn't just say like, I hope it succeeds. He basically says like, this has to succeed or esports is over, because he's a guy who's just put like his whole life savings in, guys. He hasn't got anything out of it at this point. So actually at the time, selling the team to CGS seemed like maybe this is it. Maybe we're going to make it. And then if people don't know, when CGS failed, he's one of the people that took it the hardest because he just essentially put his whole life and all that hard work in his real life job into this org. And he thought, oh, it's the whole thing's dead. And now there's not even like a chance for it to succeed. If it died on TV, what future does it have? So the idea that years later, he still even got to be involved and get complexity back and they built it back up slowly. As Maui's saying, when he first came along in CSGO, they weren't even close to a top org. Like, they were just an NA org, and the whole thing is they could only get NA players. Like, there was never, no big name player was going to this org. So also, when he then sold to the Dallas Cowboys, I think a lot of people don't understand that story because they still acted like he owned the team, but also had sold it. And it's like, as far as I know, I think he'd actually cashed out most of his equity at that point. So I think he was just running the team essentially for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, so at that point, I think it's cool that this guy essentially, after all this, we're talking about like 20 years or almost, at the end, he gets to own it again. He gets to get his original brand, Complexity, that he began 20 years ago, that he established, took through all these different eras, through CS 1.6, CS Source, into CSGO, CS2 now even, as we say, he almost won the first CS2 tournament. I think it's cool that someone like that gets to own it, because as you say, this is how you know this guy isn't a grifter, because he's got what you call skin in the game. He literally put his life and his life savings into this fucking video game, and notice he never ever did it, guys, on some cynical, like pretty sure I won't name names, but he never just went, oh, is NA shit now? I'll just sign a whole Russian roster or Brazilian roster. It was always NA lineups. You notice that? Yeah. It's always majority NA, because this guy also, a bit like Tabson in the German scene, is there to make his country succeed. He doesn't want to just have a good team. He wants a good North American team because he is North American and he wants to cheer for people from his region. I think that's cool. I also think when people are willing to put themselves in like that, you've got to give them extra credit. Like, that's not a cynical move. That's actually someone who's a true believer, guys. I think that's dope. I think that's really cool. And then I'll just say briefly, the other thing is this. Normally, I would say, though, but who gives a fuck about Complexity? But quite frankly, ever since they got a leash and now JT got better, I do care about Complexity. In fact, I think the joke is they are, in my opinion, 1-star move from actually being really good. Like, I think if they could get, the joke is if they could get an Esperanto or some like talent, or they could have a Broland type play, that's all they'd need. They'd be like right to the top, I think. So I also think they're quite spicy. And then one last thing to say about Maui, just a little piece of advice for you, because it goes like this, and you'll know this if you've been on the internet long enough. When people say that line, when they go, nobody's even saying that, I'll tell you why you never humour that comment, Maui. Because if you were to show them someone saying it, here's what they then say. Yeah, but that's just one guy. And then you go, no, but it isn't though. They said it on Reddit. It was upvoted. Yeah, but it's only 48 upvotes. And then what you learn eventually is they will move the goalposts forever. And essentially what they mean is this, Maui. One of two things. Either one, I don't like that opinion, so don't say it. Or the other thing is, but I didn't say that. It's like, sadly on that one, you realise, like, if you take them at face value, unlike what I did when I replied to Dona, you'll get nowhere, mate. They'll just think like just wasting your time. That's just the ultimate reply guy move, that one, I think.
Facts.
I love it.
That's facts.
And they'll also throw this out there. You know, when they go,
yeah.
you're just replying to one guy. It's like, bro, you're literally triggered by one British guy who's 40 with a fucking ginger beard, you daft cunt. Like, will you just calm down? We're all getting triggered by people on the internet. I am 40, but it's true. I'm almost 41.
But I see it every time.
Oh, they always say that, of course. No, what's brilliant about me, Donna, is I've got to actually track my life, and I'll never forget my age, because they just started out like, you're 35, you're 36, you're 30, and then eventually, oh, cool. So, it's all right, guys, my birthday's next week. Hit me up. Let me know that I'm 41 now. Do not say I'm 40. I'm 41-year-old man.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, one thing I want to bring up also, because I actually in December when I was actually in Abu Dhabi for the Blast World Finals, I caught Jason Lake just in the hallway randomly, and it was surprising to obviously see him there. But that was when he was trying to find the external funding to try to buy back Complexity from FaZe, and he had told me earlier